It would not be a Friday during the 2021 NFL season if there were not some weird news breaking during Friday. Amari Cooper going to miss the Kansas City versus Dallas game for this week after he tested positive for COVID-19. So that does definitely change things from a DFS perspective. We're going to break down that. We're going to do a snake draft live on air and take your questions to get you set for week number 11. This is the snake draft Q&A right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sannes. I am a senior writer and analyst for NumberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by Brandon Gdula and JJ Zachariason, getting you set for week number 11. As always, we're going to take your questions later on today. You can get those in whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. It does not matter. We'll take questions wherever you're watching later on after the snake draft. We'll get to those later on. As always, make sure you hit subscribe on your platform of choice and come back here every weekday at 4 p.m. We have NFL DFS discussion on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Of course, Tom Vecchio has you covered with NBA DFS every Wednesday. Let's bring on in Brandon and JJ now. JJ, of course, the editor-in-chief of Number Fire and FanDuel. And JJ, no Amari Cooper this week, but still a lot of fun plays on this DFS slate. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad that the scheduling gods gave us the Dallas Kansas City game on the main slate, because if it wasn't on the main slate, I mean, there's still some decent enough games, but there's a lot of like iffy games, could go either direction. At least we feel pretty confident that Dallas Kansas City game could be very high scoring.
Yeah, and it seems like every good game like that this year has been an island game of some kind. So it's been upsetting, but hey, at least we have that. We know we get a better idea where the ball is going, I guess, now with Cooper being rolled out, but still a bit bummed about that. So let's talk to Brandon Gdula, the managing editor of NumberFire.com and my co-host on the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, our DFS podcast. Brandon, we talked a lot about the Dallas pass catchers yesterday. How does Cooper being out alter your view of Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and also I would say Dak Prescott as well?
Yes, I mean, we're in the thick of things with NBA season, and usually with the NBA, whenever you have an injury to a key player or an absence from a key player, you can just sort of slot other players in at lower salaries and expect a pretty decent, like per minute, again, sticking with the NBA analogy, production. With NFL, you and I always warn about, hey, you take a stud receiver off the field, that offense is going to be less efficient than they normally would be. There are going to be fewer scoring chances, fewer touchdowns, most likely. But in this case, we still have some relevant pass catchers, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, who, you and I both love. I don't actually know how JJ feels about Michael Gallup, but the Heat Check is officially a Michael Gallup fan club.
We are his propaganda stream.
So I don't really see that huge of a downgrade to this passing offense. Of course, it's a downgrade, but with Michael Gallup at 5,400 from a salary cap standpoint, he's going to be such a chalky value play. But again, it's a downgrade, but it's not to the point where we gotta like divest from this offense by any means.
I would say the one change for me is that I had said I think that Dak was like a hair above Mahomes yesterday. I would flip that now with go Mahomes over Dak. I still think they're the top two quarterbacks on the slate. I'm sure they'll both be draftable in this, but it does alter things at least a bit. The other news from today is the 49ers backfield. And JJ, I want to talk to you about this because Eli Mitchell is now doubtful. We have JaMychal Hasty ruled out, which means that Jeff Wilson is $5,000 on FanDuel, an extreme value play. Is there enough there in terms of the high leverage work? Because Kyle Juszczyk is still getting some targets for this team. We saw Debo get some runs in close last week. Is there enough there for you to go to Jeff Wilson at $5,000 for this week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that San Francisco has given us zero indication that they actually like Trey Sermon. If Sermon had been active in some games and had been seeing work in that backfield, while Elijah Mitchell was seeing the work before Jeff Wilson came back, maybe I'd feel a little bit more confident that this would be a split backfield. But, this past week we see, they obviously had a really, really run heavy approach, but Jeff Wilson still saw 27% of the team's running back rushes in that game. And he is a capable pass catcher and goal line guy. I mean, we've seen him in that goal line role historically, which is obviously something that you're going to need from a DFS perspective. But and then the other thing on top of that is, the matchups there for a positive game script. The Jags rush defense isn't nearly as bad, I think, as what people probably think when you look at it on paper. It's a very average rush defense. But, even last week against Jonathan Taylor, he had that amazing first quarter. And then there really wasn't that much from Jonathan Taylor after that. They really, got him. And so I'm not like, this isn't like some like they're not like facing the Chargers or something where you got to just run on them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's likely going to be a positive game script. They are favorites in this game. And Jeff Wilson's probably going to see like 80% of the backfield's work. And so at 5K, you gotta play him.
I agree. I think that he's a solid option this week. There is room for not going all in because Juszczyk, again, could get some high leverage work. But you mentioned the pass catching. I think that's worth emphasizing because last year, the final 5 games, Wilson averaged like 4.2 targets per game. I think he had 36% of the team's red zone chances in that time too. Like he's gotten high leverage work in the past. And that to me makes me feel more confident in him. I feel better about AJ Dillon at 7,000. It's obviously a higher salary, but I think that it's worth that personally for the safety in Dillon. But I think that Wilson becomes, at least in consideration for cash games and a good tournament play as well for this week. Okay, so we're going to go to the snake draft now. We've been doing this for 9 weeks now. We've alternated wins in the exact same pattern this entire time. JJ, me, Brandon, JJ, me, Brandon, et cetera, et cetera. Brandon won last week to tie things up at 3 apiece. JJ, you are guaranteed victory for this week. So let's light it up.
Let's do
Get
it.
yourself entered and let's get this puppy underway.
I will say, I feel like I've should have won. Okay, I got the 101, which is what I
told
wanted.
you that's getting the third pick. Every week I identify the worst pick and I say that's my pick and it's my pick.
You've won 3 times. You can stop complaining.
So
Get out of here.
I really feel like the last 2 weeks, like after the one, because the last 2 weeks have had really bad 4 p.m. games, late afternoon games. And I was in like decent spots both weeks. And then my 4 p.m. players just completely S the bed. And I am very excited for that to happen once again, or hopefully not happen because this is my turn to win.
I did see DJ saying that I want AJ Dillon. You can tell by my facial expressions. My facial expressions are off the charts. I don't know what gave that away, but you're right. So we'll see if I can get AJ Dillon in this draft here right now. I'll draft number 2. I think JJ, we're pretty in consensus that Christian McCaffrey is 101, correct?
Yeah, I'm going CMC. Even I've seen the narrative that he can't score touchdowns with Cam Newton, but I'm still gonna pick Christian McCaffrey.
The offense can't score touchdowns with PJ Walker, so I'll take that trade off for sure. Okay, so that means I'm up with the second pick. I'm going Dalvin Cook here in that game with the Packers. It is a situation where it's a good matchup for Cook. The workload is exactly what you want. I think that was a pretty easy call. So Brandon, you got 2 here. What you thinking about?
Well, I don't want to give you the AJ Dillon, Dalvin Cook stack, but I also think it's getting a little too cute to go away from Jonathan Taylor here. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go with Taylor. And then my discussion is between Dillon and the wide receivers, and I think I know where I'm leading, and I think it's going to be Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
In that game, that should score about 5,000 points. So I'm gonna go with Tyreek here, and not overthink it too much.
So we had talked before about where the receivers enter the equation, and I had said after Dillon, but now that I'm given the choice of straight up, do I want AJ Dillon or Devontae Adams? It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to go Devontae. I'll still get a game stack there, but I think it's really hard for me to not go Devontae. You were laughing, Brandon. Why?
Because it's easy to say things like that beforehand. It's like, oh no, AJ Dillon's the play, and it's like, am I really going to take AJ Dillon over Tyreek Hill in a complete shootout, or Devontae Adams? In what is a good game as well. So,
yep. And I think with the number of running backs we have, it is a 1-to-1 comparison. I'm not going to have a huge drop off by going running back later. So JJ, you and AJ Dillon, I'd have done the same thing. Second pick, what's in your brain here?
I'm thinking that Kansas City game. I really want to get exposure to it.
Mecole Hardman.
I could go the Zeke route and get just 3 really nice running backs, but I'm actually going to go CeeDee Lamb with Amari Cooper sidelined.
So you said you could have gone Zeke. I will go Zeke. I'll take Zeke here. Wait. Is Jonathan? Oh, I had like a panic second where I thought that Jonathan Taylor hadn't been drafted, and like I'm going to check my pulse here. We're good. Okay. I thought that I just made the stupidest pick of all time. We're good. Brandon, what you got here with your next 2 picks?
So with Nick Chubb good to go here, coming off the COVID list within this matchup, I think I got to go him because I view running back dropping off there. Everyone behind Chubb is just a receiver or a tight end. I've taken a lot of Travis Kelce in these snake drafts. It hasn't always panned out. I'm not going to go there because I already have Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with someone who I think has a really, really high. Well, I have Taylor.
Just make a pick, dude. You're gonna run out of time,
bro. I know. Okay. I can see the time. Man.
I'm freaking out over here.
Well, I'm thinking Jamar Chase because I love that high end upside, but I have Taylor, so I figured I shouldn't be stupid and I should stack to Stephon Diggs.
I disagree. I think you should be stupid. It's encouraged at all times in these drafts. I think Diggs is the right pick. I was choosing between Diggs and Mixon, so I'm glad you made it easy on me. I would have taken whatever you didn't want.
It was between those two and Chase.
So JJ goes Kelsey. I think that is pretty logical at this point. Can't push back on that. And you got Mahomes. So you have Mahomes, Kelsey, and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
That'll work. So my question is, do I go with a receiver and Jamar Chase? Just kidding. I didn't realize Jamar Chase is there. We'll take Jamar Chase. I was going to decide between Jamar Chase and a quarterback, and then I saw Jamar Chase, and I was like, okay, made it easy on me. I'll take him.
Okay,
which
so
means
now
Brandon will get Dak.
Or I could go with the Allen stack.
Oh, with Diggs.
That's the problem.
Do it.
That's the problem.
Do it.
Get Dak.
Do it.
Ruin Jim.
No. Go Josh Allen. Go trash Allen. Do it. Okay. Do it.
I'm gonna do it. I want the stack. I want that game stack. I don't love that game that much, but it's too hard to pass up that opportunity. I could go running back here. I could also go receiver with Justin Jefferson, but I think I might just take a good workload here in what could be a good game and go with James Conner.
I love it. I think that's the right pick. I think that's the right way to think about it too. I'll go Dak here to get that Zeke Dak stack. So Tony Pollard, 3 rushing touchdowns incoming this weekend. And JJ, what did you finish up with there?
Justin Jefferson. I got the AJ Dillon Justin Jefferson stack. So I went pretty heavy stack in this game or in this draft. I got the KC Dallas game with Mahomes, the Kelsey, and then CeeDee Lamb, and then got the AJ Dillon Justin Jefferson stack in there too, which, last week I had no correlation whatsoever. And then this one, obviously it's only correlation with CMC in there. So I dig it. I know
that we downplay the projections in terms of these. It's worth noting that Lamb's will go up with Amari out. Yeah. So that's kind of misleading with the way it is. I think that Lamb, where you took him, was correct. It was after, because I think that to me, in tearing off the receivers, I would say with no Amari, it's kind of Tyreek, Devontae, and then Lamb is like, at least sniffing that tier, if not in it. Do you agree with that? Where I think that he's in that top 3 at receiver right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely take Tyreek and Devontae straight up over Lamb, but there's just a lot of upside. And in this kind of format, you want to associate guys in these high scoring games, these potential shootouts, just because, you need to gobble up as many points you possibly can. And CeeDee Lamb without Amari Cooper, probably in line for like a 25% target share in this game against Kansas City in a shootout. I'll take that all day long.
I would take that for sure as well. And getting it with Mahomes and Kelsey makes a lot of sense. Let's go to Brandon here. You did get the Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs game stack there. No objections here. And I do like the James Conner pick a lot because that was your last pick. Talk us through the Conner pick. I agree with it. What was your thought process in going with him?
So it was between like James Conner and then a Justin Jefferson level receiver at the flex. James Conner still had a good workload. I know that he didn't put up the results he did. Let me try to keep track here in week 9 as he did in week 10, but the workload should still be there for him in week 11. Potential to get Kyler, back here this week. So, we nitpicked that game, or at least I nitpicked that game, that Cardinals Seahawks game on the heat check yesterday. But it's still, even though I have some concerns with it, it's not like it's a cross-off game. And so I actually really just got access to a bunch of good games aside from that Lions and Browns contest. But, with Nick Chubb good to go, it's really hard to pass that up in a snake draft format. So Chubb not really on my radar for a salary cap format. Connor not that high up on the list either, but
interesting.
It's a very different format, and that's why I had to take so long for some of my picks, because it's like, I don't like Stephon Diggs that much from a salary cap standpoint, but when I have Jonathan Taylor and I'm looking for, some correlation, we still want upside. It's a 3-person draft, but you still want things to kind of pan out. And that's why, even though I love Dak, I went with Josh Allen so I could get that stack. So I feel pretty good about the team that I drafted. And again, only one sort of bad game with that Nick Chubb game.
I want to hear your thoughts on Connor because it sounds like Alvin Kamara probably won't play. We know AJ Dillon's like a featured back right now. We've got Jeff Wilson. Are all those guys above Connor in a salary cap format for you, with Connor at $7,200?
It's close. So this is another week where it's kind of shaping up like we had last week when it comes to running back, where we have value, we have mid-range backs, but we also have some studs now at the top with Christian McCaffrey back, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott in a great game. His workload is not quite, flawless by any means, but I think whenever you put all of that into the conversation, James Conner is just not necessarily a priority play for me from a salary cap standpoint. So I would probably rank him toward the bottom end, but that sounds like you disagree. So what are your thoughts on that one?
So I think he's above Ingram because, well, if Kyler plays, I think he's above Ingram because
I could see that.
The starting tackles for the Saints are likely out as well. And that's a tough situation against a pretty good defensive line. They both got similar roles, but one has Kyler, one has Trevor Siemian. So I think that's why I put him above Ingram, because it's only $400 difference in salary. The question is, do I put him above Wilson? I think with the salary savings and with how desperately I want to stack Chiefs Cowboys, I'd probably go Wilson above Connor and Ingram. So to me, I think it would be Dylan 1, considering salary, Dylan 1, Wilson 2, Connor 3, Ingram 4. We talked about David Montgomery a lot yesterday, and I still think that he's viable, but I think when you've got these good options, and with Allen Robinson being out, which downgrades the Bears as an offense, I kind of think that I'm okay putting him behind those guys. Now, JJ, we talked a lot about value backs. I like it in the order of Dylan, Wilson, Connor, Ingram. You don't need to rank them, but do you push back on any of those as far as am I too high on anyone, too low on anyone? What are your thoughts on those guys?
No, I have no issue with it. James Conner, this past week, a lot of people are going to look at his end of game stat line, and yeah, he found the end zone, so he was still fine enough, but his peripherals were still really, really good in that game. And so if you get Kyler back, obviously that's going to give him a huge boost because he has that touchdown upside. He's going to regress eventually in the touchdown column, but that regression doesn't hit as hard if the team is just scoring more points and finding the end zone more. So yeah, I wouldn't push back on any of that. I think, generally whenever you're in those tiebreaker situations, it's just easier to go to game environment. And I think that New Orleans game just isn't that appealing in general. So it's just a lot easier to go to those other backs.
And I still like Ingram. I want to make that clear. I think that when I've got other options, I'm okay, emphasizing the health of very good offensive tackles. Okay, so that's going to wrap up the snake draft for this week. So let's slide on over to the questions section and check out what is being asked over there. Starting things off with Elias over on YouTube. Am I getting too cute by playing Zach Ertz over TJ Hawkinson in standard? Let's start with that one, JJ, for you. It looks like Tim Boyle's probably going to start for the Lions for this week, which means the Lions now deprived of the best quarterback in football. How does it impact your view of TJ Hawkinson when you downgrade him to the point where you'd use Zach Ertz over him this week?
I think you can consider it if Kyler ends up going. I think that from a ranking standpoint, Hawkinson would still be the guy over Ertz. And I say that just from the standpoint of I'm sorry, Jim, earmuff this, but don't overstate the impact that Jared Goff is making in this offense to begin with. But, someone asked me a mailbag question this week about TJ Hawkinson and if they should drop him. And it's one of those things where let's not look at what happened this past week against Pittsburgh and sort of overstate what's going on with TJ Hawkinson. I mean, the 3 weeks prior to that, he was very much a tight end 1 in fantasy football. He was seeing a really healthy target, he has a 20% target share in the season. He was seeing a really healthy target share in the offense the 3 weeks prior. I'm not ready to give up on TJ Hawkinson because of this horrible game that he had against Pittsburgh. Yes, there have been ebb and flows with Hawkinson this year. So I think in from a rankings perspective, Hawkinson would be over Ertz, but yes, I can understand. I don't think it's getting too cute. That's what the question's asking. I don't think it's getting too cute to say, I want a piece of an offense that's going to score more points this week. No DeAndre Hopkins, maybe some more targets get funneled that way. If Kyler goes, I don't think it's getting that cute.
Okay, and the second part of that was streamers. Cam Newton, Justin Fields, Tua Tagovailoa. Now, it's worth noting here, sounds like PJ Walker will also play for Carolina. That likely dents Cam Newton a bit. So, JJ, with that context being in mind, we going Tua here. What do you think? Thoughts on the quarterback situation?
Yeah, I've been in on Tua all week. I really think he's a smash play. I mean, if you look at what he's done this season, he faced Buffalo twice. One of those games he got knocked out. And then he faced New England as well. And then his 2 other games, we won't count Baltimore because he came in halfway through the game. And then the other two games that he played was against Atlanta and Jacksonville. And in those 2+ matchups, he smashed. He had 21 points and 26 fantasy points. So I think Tua is the top streamer this week. It's a very beatable defense. I mean, they just keep giving up 40+ points a game. You gotta look at the quarterback who's facing that defense. And, I know a lot of people get scared off of this kind of game. Number one, we talked about this earlier in the week, Jim, but number one, the spread of this game is a lot tighter than I think people would expect. But number two, in order for a team to get into a positive game script, into garbage time, the quarterback has to get them in that position in the first place. Right. So if Miami scores 4 touchdowns this weekend, then like if that were a given, let's say, then you want to use the quarterback, because it's very easy for that quarterback to maybe get all 4, even get 2. Even if Tua only has 2 of those touchdowns, he's still going to be very viable as a starter in fantasy. So I think he's a really, really good option this week.
The non-competitive game concern is much higher in DFS than season long. Season long, who cares? Like, yes. If it's a 6 spread that increases their implied total, cool, let's party. Right. So yeah, for DFS, it matters a lot more. Let's talk to John. Herbert or Hurts? Brandon, we got Justin Herbert facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jalen Hurts facing the Saints for his 3 pass attempts this week. What you thinking about these two?
That's tough. I know Herbert's had just been up and down. Hurts has been, mostly consistent. But you and I, Jim, have talked about this team's pass rate just plummeting off the face of the planet. This game's not very good. So I'm going to lean with Justin Herbert by a tinge. I have it very close in my projections. But I'm going to side with Herbert here just because it's always easier to say play the quarterback whose team actually wants to throw the ball, right, as opposed to the quarterback whose team does not want to throw the ball ever.
And it's not really the Steelers defense. It's the Steelers defense with no Minka Fitzpatrick, no TJ Watt. That is a massive, massive downgrade for them there. Let's talk to John. Dalton Schultz or Mike Gesicki. Now, if you'd asked me this an hour ago, I would have said Gesicki by a mile, but now JJ with no Amari Cooper, I think at least makes this an interesting question here for you. So Dalton Schultz or Mike Gesicki this week?
I might go with Dalton Schultz, honestly. I mean, like close. we saw his target share drop to like 6% this past week. And, I don't want us to overinflate what's going on with Michael Gallup coming back and assume that that's the kind of target share he's going to see week in and week out. I think that what we're going to see with a healthy wide receiver group in Dallas is just some weeks, if there is a player that goes off like CeeDee Lamb went off last week, if that player does exist, and that means that other guys just won't have very big games. But at the same time, I think that a lot of these guys can all thrive in what is a good offense. So Dalton Schultz, I think from a projection standpoint, going to see probably 12 to 15% of the team's targets in that game environment. I will take that all day because I think there's going to be a lot of passing volume potential in the Dallas Cowboys offense. So if Schultz sees 7 targets, which I think is possible, I think you got to play him.
It's worth noting too, like they didn't go to 3 receiver sets just because Gallup was back. Like they just took Lamb off the field at times. Like they kept 2 tight ends out there, which is good for Schultz. Yeah. Like the target share is bad, but the usage is fine.
He ran the most routes in the Cowboys last week.
That's absurd. So. Let's talk to Alvin here with a trade question for you, JJ. Would you trade Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Alexander Mattison for Tyler Lockett in half PPR? He's got some decent but not great wide receivers. So it would be an upgrade over, Cooks for the wide receiver 2 there. Dalvin and Zach Moss would be the 2 running backs there. Now, Zach Moss, pretty shaky. So would you use or move Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Tyler Lockett effectively in half PPR?
So, CEH is sort of in that like Miles Sanders bucket. I mean, I like CEH more than Sanders, but they're sort of in that bucket of players where if your team right now is sitting on as a fringe playoff team, which looking at this roster, you're probably a fringe playoff team, you might not be like in first. And if you're not in first, I wouldn't be taking on a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire or wanting a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would just go for a guy like Lockett, who's a little bit safer at this point. But if you're a fringe playoff team, I think going after guys like CEH and Miles Sanders and those types of players, just understanding that there could be a committee, which I think we should expect with Darrell Williams taking on pass catching work, with Jordan Howard, which I can't believe I'm saying that, but with Jordan Howard taking on early down work in Philadelphia. I think the Philadelphia thing is a lot scarier for Miles Sanders, for the record, than Darrell Williams for CEH. But regardless, I just wouldn't feel that comfortable trotting Zach Moss out each and every week at this point. And so that's why I'd probably hold tight. And because this team looks to be where it's at, I'd probably still hold tight to just get maybe that upside with CEH, Chiefs offense is clicking a little bit more. They might have some more touchdown opportunity for him. So I'd probably hold tight here. And we know that Lockett's a fairly volatile week-to-week wide receiver anyway. And the wide receivers you have, not only that, I love Godwin. I love Brandon Cooks. Corey Davis is a really, really nice schedule from here on out. And Jarvis Landry still, I mean, they need to pass a little bit more, but he's at least
physically
seeing the
present.
right. Yeah, he at least has the right peripherals that we like to see. So I mean, he's fine as like a wide receiver 4 too. So I think that you're fine if you want to hold tight with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Alexander Mattison.
I think that makes sense. Let's talk to Sean here. Answer a couple questions. I'll go with the first one. I'll go Kyler Murray over Jalen Hurts for your quarterback conundrum. Foreman versus Darrell Williams is tough because we don't know if CEH will be activated yet. CEH is active. You'd find that out by tomorrow at 4 when they announce if he has to be activated from IR. If CEH is inactive, go Darrell Williams. If CEH is not activated, I would go with Deontay Foreman there. And then for the receivers, Rashad Bateman, Hunter Renfrow, or Brandon Ayuk. That one's tough. You guys got a strong opinion?
It's Ayuk for me. I like Brandon Ayuk. He's got, the one thing that you can say for sure is that the 49ers should have a very easy path to efficient passing this week. Brandon Ayuk has over a 20% target share the past 2 games with George Kittle back. They've really just focused on Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle. I would lean Ayuk there, but I might be in the minority.
20% target share for Ayuk this week, which means 3 targets. So that'll be a thriller for Brandon Ayuk this week.
Are you gonna say it's somebody else?
I'll probably say
on record.
Bait boy.
I'm gonna go Renfrow.
Okay.
I actually think it might, like, I always think in such like in like season long terms, and like Renfrow is such a season long guy.
So
yeah. I mean, like, I'm just like, I do think that Renfrow has an insanely good floor. Obviously, I mean, like, it's just he's gonna see 7 targets, 8 targets potentially in this game. Could be a high. I think of the game environments listed there of the 3, that's the best game environment. So I honestly, I think I want to go Renfrow at 3.
It's probably not the worst idea. I still like Bait Boy though. DJ, oh yeah, we did that one before. Shake and Bake, lost Amari Cooper. So would you start Mark Ingram, because Alvin Kamara is out? So start Mark Ingram, Jeff Wilson, or stack Devontae with Hurts. That's a different one. I'm not sure the stack Devontae with Hurts thing. Oh, you're starting Hurts at quarterback. Should you use Devontae as a result? There we go. Talk myself through it. I am probably going Ingram here. Am I egregious in doing that?
No, that's
okay.
By volume. Go after chase the volume.
Okay, let's talk to Darnell. Would you go with Michael Pittman against Buffalo or roll the dice with Kadarius Toney? Toney coming back, facing a banged up Tampa Bay secondary. I would still go Pittman, but I'm at least tempted, right?
I mean, there's temptation, but I mean, we still don't really know for sure. I mean, in an ideal world, they'd be using Kadarius Toney the way they should use Kadarius Toney, but we just don't know. You know, there's question marks about that. If there weren't question marks about that, I think it's more of a discussion because of the matchup for Michael Pittman, but Pittman's he's a monster.
In 3 games against top 12 adjusted pass defenses at Number Fire, Pittman's got a 28% target share. That's 10.3 per game, 86 yards, and a touchdown per game. So
seems good.
Wentz falls off, but he still throws it to Pittman. So
as he should. Darnell, do we love Gallup with Amari on the COVID list? Darnell, I think Gallup might have been a love for Brandon and me yesterday on the podcast.
He was yours. He was going to be both of ours, but he was yours
because I stole it.
Yeah, and he was one of my values on more ways to win this week. So it looks like we're the trio of Gallup lovers right here.
We love him more, Darnell. We just love him all across the board. And finally, I think Darnell tuned in late. So just quickly, I'll give the thoughts on Jeff Wilson. I think Darnell, to me, he grades out behind A.J. Dillon with regards to salary. I might put him second, though, in terms of once we consider salary. So I think that's where I'm at with that one. If it's a season-long thing, I'm feeling pretty good playing him there. Grim fan, should I play Jamal Agnew? No, please don't. I know the targets are there. I really, really, really don't want to do it.
Look, Grim fan, I get it. I have to start him in a league this week. I understand the pain.
I'm starting in a dynasty league, but I'm tanking. So like, I don't know if that actually counts.
Yeah, I mean, my team is it's my worst redraft team. So
okay, let's talk to Chris here quickly. Does Goff being out affect Swift positively or negatively? I'll let you answer this one.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Jim, I think that you should answer this one.
It's negative. So I know that I have a blind spot towards Jared Goff. But Tim Boyle has been cut a couple times for various reasons, and it means fewer touchdown chances for the team, means less chance they move the ball, less chance to score more touchdowns. And the way you score points in fantasy is yards and touchdowns. They may run the ball more at a higher rate, but that does not net out as being a positive. So downgrade. It's a good question to ask, Chris. Totally understand it. But I would still say no.
We also don't know Boyle's tendencies either. I mean, Jared Goff's been targeting the Lions backfield at such a high rate, and that's why Swift has been so
maybe
valuable.
Tim Boyle's a D-gaffer. Maybe Josh Reynolds blows up.
Exactly. Maybe.
Let's go with that. DJ, do you recommend getting Tyler Johnson with the Antonio Brown situation?
I mean, the problem is that Tyler Johnson hasn't done much, even with Antonio Brown sidelined over the last few weeks. So I don't think it's that necessary, because then you're obviously like projecting that something's going to go on with. I mean, something might happen with Antonio Brown. Who knows? Because he did something really stupid. But well, yeah, I just don't think he's worth an ad.
Okay, CJ, half PPR pick 2 between Mark Ingram, Jeff Wilson, T. Higgins. Ingram, Higgins over Wilson, correct? It's pretty close, I would say.
I love T. Higgins this week. If we get, assuming Mitchell's out, I'd have a hard time going against the 2 running backs in half PPR.
Yeah, I'm going running backs.
So I'd go to running backs.
Cool. I feel better about that. I thought that I was being irrational on Jeff Wilson, so I feel better knowing that I was,
doesn't Higgins score? He's scored like between the same number of points every, like 11 and 14 points every week, it seems like.
Yeah, I think that's
and Jeff Wilson has more touchdown upside, I'd say.
I would agree with that as well. Final one from Grim Fan. I'm not going to put the kiss of death on the Browns. I refuse. I don't need to do that right now.
I will. Yeah, the Browns are yes.
No, this show is cursed. Every time we talk about
you're cursed, Jim. You're cursed.
Accurate. Yes, I am cursed. So if JJ says the Browns are okay, Grim Fan, they are okay, I will leave myself out of it. I'm just going to, thank you. I'm not going to answer. Thank you. You understand, Grim Fan. That is why you are a loyal listener who understands me and you respect my well-being on Sunday. Thank you, Grim Fan, for your service. That is all that we have here for today on this snake draft. As always, make sure you check out JJ's podcast, the Late Round Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and follow JJ on Twitter at Late Round QB. Check out Brandon on Twitter at Gdula13, and check out our DFS podcast by searching for the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. JJ, any final thoughts for you before we close up shop for this week?
Well, I've got a season-long team where I'm starting Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz. So let's go Cowboys.
Let's go Cowboys. Brandon, any final thoughts for you after we know all that we know this week?
I like the Bengals Raiders game as the sneaky stack of the week.
It better be
that sneaky, but
yeah. If it gets Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase to help me win the snake draft, I am fully on board. That is all that we have here for this week. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you all for tuning in. Good luck to you with your lineups for this week. And we'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the FanDuel Snake Draft Q&A.